Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 214, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And we are back with another episode, continuing our chronicle of the Castlevania series. Certainly
Wait,
the most
we're not talking about Castlevania Chronicles until later, are we?
Actually, only in a little bit. But
Oh.
I really have to say that this is our largest mini-series that we've ever really done. Most have only had like 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah, next time, you know what we gotta do next time is do
What's that?
FromSoft's games, but do a deep dive on each game.
Actually, would be okay with that. Believe it or not.
I would have to carry that like entire conversation except for like
okay.
Dark Souls 1.
I mean, I'm carrying the Castlevania conversation. I mean, it's
Yeah, fair enough.
At least I'll have things to say, and I'll be able to play, advocate for the person who hasn't played it, which is the majority of people. So I'll be able to, ask questions. But yeah, this is Castlevania episode 5, I believe. Yeah, 5. So last, just to catch you up on this, if you haven't, if you haven't been paying attention to the releases. The last episode we went over Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is probably, other than maybe Castlevania 1 or 3's, significance, probably the one of the most significant games in the series, probably the most
Also other than today's entry.
Yeah, not really, but we're getting to some interesting times. This is actually kind of some fans will even call it a dark time for Castlevania because it gets a little weird from here because Symphony of the Night was such a well-loved cult hit. I mean, it even got greatest hit status on PlayStation 1, and for a 2D game to get that, I think it was like one of the only ones.
Yeah, this was an era where everybody was really pushing 3D because 2D's outdated and primitive, and we only did it because we had to. Now we're in the realm of 3D, man, so like, this was an era where there were a lot of quality 3D games, but nobody cared a lot of quality 2D games, but nobody cared because they were 2D. Like, a lot of stuff on the Saturn was... I mean, nobody had a Saturn, so that's kind of unfair. But like, they had a lot of quality 2D stuff as well, but it was overlooked. So like you said, for a 2D game to get this much swag is impressive.
And it's certainly one of the best, most beloved games of all time. Symphony of the Night is one of like those games where you could say it was perfect. Like, it just was that good. There's certainly shortcomings, but they're really small.
Yeah, like I mentioned, a hard game over instead of insta respawn, but like no one would have thought of that at the time.
Yeah. Also, it's a minor inconvenience at best.
Also, you're supposed to never die. Get good. It'll never happen.
It's a timeless game. You're not gonna find too much wrong with it, and it just has so much packed into it and so much attention to detail. It's just a lovely, wonderful game. And after that, the game that was released like right after that in 1997 was Castlevania Legends, which we already kind of gone over. So this was a remake of the Castlevania X 68,000 game, which is a remake of the original Castlevania. It is a unique title, and I do recommend it. However, if you are looking for a Symphony of the Night esque experience slash that level of depth, you are not going to find it. In fact, a lot of the reviewers at the time were disappointed by the fact that this is what it was, because it's a return to the arcade-inspired gameplay of the old games, where it's level by level.
Yes.
And it's also a particularly hard game in the series, even though it's really cool that a very obscure version got a re-release. Nobody had an X68000 in the United States, and very few people in Japan probably still had one. So even though it was a well-regarded and critically, it was like one of those computer systems that was well loved, but I'm sure not too many people actually had one, even in Japan. So, it's well regarded these days because it had like the same processor chip as a lot of arcade hardware at the time. In fact, like Capcom developed a lot of their CPS2 games on it, so they had basically arcade perfect gameplay for a lot of CPS2 games, like, Street Fighter 2 and all that stuff. So, and Strider on there is basically arcade perfect. Like it had a lot of the really awesome super scalar Sega games on it. Hang On and stuff like that.
Sure.
And so it was basically like arcade perfect, and it had a unique Castlevania game. I mean, it's a remake of Castlevania 1, but only in structure and name only. Like the level layouts are completely different. So I recommend that you pick this one up. It's also available on PSN still for the PlayStation 3, Vita, and PSP in North America. And it's also pretty amazing that we got it in North America at all. It also was the first time that we saw the modern incarnation of Simon Belmont, or a more modern incarnation. All of the artwork, the promotional artwork, was done by the same artist as Akira. Who is it? I'm sorry. Ayami Kojima did official art for this game, outside of the game, so like on the cover and everything, and did a version of Simon Belmont that had never really been done before. Instead of his original appearance as kind of a barbarian-esque, Conan the Barbarian-esque figure, he looked more like an anime version, similar to Richter or Alucard. And
he didn't look like the version in Captain N?
No, not at all.
Okay.
In fact, he was, Bishonen kind of, just like very kind of feminine. But he had like red hair for the first time. Simon's appearance has varied greatly from game to game. He probably looks the most different from game to game of any character in the entire franchise. So it's pretty neat that he kind of got a facelift. Of course, he's kind of reverted back to his barbarian phase with Smash Brothers.
Yeah, with the amiibo.
Yeah. I mean, he's back to his classic look, but it was kind of a neat phase for him in particular. But the meat of this episode is actually going to be something that Lotus has more experience with than the other title, so I'm going to give him an opportunity to talk about this title. This came out in '99, not too long after.
Yeah, this is kind of funny because I've only ever beaten one home console Castlevania title, and this is the one. It's just called Castlevania, but it's not. It's obviously not the NES title. It's what's colloquially known as Castlevania 64 because it was
just called Castlevania though.
Yep.
Like on its cover, which is
that's what I'm saying. But everybody calls it Castlevania 64 because you want to set it apart.
It's Sonic 06. It's
it's just called Sonic the Hedgehog
or Doom.
Get the hell out of here.
Doom 2016. I mean, everybody calls that.
It's just called Doom. Again, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This is especially disorienting because there's two Castlevania 64s, although the other one actually has a subtitle, Legacy of Darkness.
Sure.
But the first one's just called Castlevania. And it's funny because this is an era, on Super Nintendo, like 90% of the games are called Super something. On N64, 90% of the games are called whatever its actual title is, 64. But Castlevania didn't have that. I don't know what was up with that. But in any case, Castlevania 64 was one of those games that isn't remembered very well. I don't even know if it was well regarded at the time because of its...
Actually, it got highly criticized at the time.
Yeah, because it had very early 3D. This is a classic case of taking a well-known 2D series and going, well, we can make the transition to 3D. Mario did it. We can do it.
It was a very awkward time in which a lot of franchises were trying to a lot of old 2D favorites were trying to survive the jump to 3D, and most of them didn't. There are some stellar ones, of course. You had Mario is like, of course,
Mario and
one.
Zelda are like the classics. They made it. But Castlevania, after this 3D attempt, there was a little bit more on the PS2, but they've been 2D ever since, up until like Lords of Shadow, which doesn't even really play like a Castlevania game.
Sure.
So, but yeah, this is an early 3D game, and like it's weird. Like you had mentioned that Bloodlines takes place in relative modern era, like the 40s or the late 30s.
It's the most modern one up until that point.
Yeah, that's why 64 is really baffling, because just about everything about the game is medieval times Castlevania, with one extreme exception. There might be more than one, but
Two.
there's...
That I can think of right off the top. Two
you can think of
right off the top of my head. There's the existence of gasoline engines.
That's what I was going to mention. Yeah, it's like the first boss of the game. You open a door, and I mean, you've already been fighting little skeleton men. Skeletons are tropes in Castlevania at this point. But you open this one giant door by destroying the seal on it, and these huge double doors open, and behind it is this monstrous, massive skeleton, which looks really cool at the time. Like, I mean, say what you will about the jank that is Castlevania 64, but that giant fuck-off skeleton that roars at you is like, oh, God! So you're fighting that thing, and it's actually pretty easy. It's got very slow, heavily telegraphed attacks because it's the first boss. But after you fight it for a while, suddenly, 2 or 3 skeleton assistants that are like normal human size show up on fucking motorcycles with working headlights, and like you're like, oh, it's this kind of Castlevania game, but it isn't. Like this is a 2-time thing. You also meet them in the castle, like on the first floor, weirdly. Like it's so weird. What's the other thing you were gonna mention?
The chainsaws.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And it's just strange that I did, because that is
a major part of the appeal of this game is actually that boss. Yeah.
That part scared the daylights out of me. Yeah. So anyway, to go into I'll get there. But anyway, to get into what this game is, this was an interesting title because you could select one of 2 characters to play as. Like, we're not talking Castlevania 3 where you get an assistant. Like, you can play as one of 2 main characters. You can play as...
And more later. There are 4
in Legacy of Darkness.
Characters. No, there are 4 playable characters in the original game if you unlock them.
Not that I remember. The werewolf guy, that was Legacy of Darkness.
Nope. There's the kid is all grown up as a knight. And there's one other unlockable character.
I beat the game multiple times. I do not recall this.
Oh, okay. Maybe that it's
like you play as Reinhardt and you play as Carrie.
Yeah.
Like, there are 4 characters in Legacy of Darkness. That was the whole thing. That was like the director's cut.
Okay.
You play as 2 characters.
Okay.
So you play as Reinhardt, who is Mr. Guy with Whip.
But he's also not a Belmont, which is...
Yeah, no, he just coincidentally chooses to fight with a fucking whip. And then you have Carrie, who's a young girl who can use projectiles as her default attack. She has this little charm that she shoots balls of energy out of, and she's the easier character to play as for that reason. The thing with the game is, though, almost the entirety of the game is the same. There's one area where Reinhardt plays level A and Carrie plays level B, but otherwise it's the same game. Like, and at the end of that level, Reinhardt fights Death, the obligatory death fight, and Carrie fights some witch. That's like the one thing that's different. But otherwise the game is the same. But yeah, Legacy of Darkness, which I do not know so much about, had 4 playable characters. One of them's a werewolf, and the other is, I guess, what you were saying, a knight or whatever. But the OG game is 2 characters. But it does have unlocks, and it actually uses the N64's memory card, which is kind of cool. If you actually have one of those, the controller pack.
Yeah, this was a bizarre game because, like, basically a year later, they released Legacy of Darkness, which is like a director's cut of the same game, which very rarely has ever happened like that. And,
although it did have a bit of a difference, though. I think you started some pirate ship or something. That wasn't in the original game.
It's a director's cut, but also like a prequel.
It's like kind of different. Yeah, like some of the levels are different. But what I found really interesting about Castlevania 64 is some of the 3D stuff was pretty cool. Like there were some enemies that were like stained glass windows where the stained glass would jump out of the window and attack you. So it was like this flat 3D thing that was coming at you, which is pretty clever. There's a hedge maze which has these stone statues of dogs that chase you, and you can kill them with a couple of hits, but after a while they'll come back. So you really have to leave. You can't permanently defeat them. But the part that you mentioned that scared the daylights out of me is that this is where the Frankenstein's monster is in the game. He's actually trimming the hedges with a chainsaw, and if he sees you, he chases you with a fucking chainsaw. And you can kill him too, but again, he'll come back. So he's like the unkillable boss. I remember this is probably my single scariest N64 moments, because N64 doesn't do horror. Doom 64? But one thing I found is that this is not a Super Nintendo game. You can't leave the room and re-enter, and everybody's positions reset. I remember the Frankenstein's monster is chasing me, and I was like, fuck the exit, I'm going to find an exit. Because this was an annoying maze because there were doors that loaded other areas. So it's not just run until you see a door. You have to pick the right one. I was like, fuck it, I'm taking this door. So I entered and immediately came back to where I was. Like, I left and immediately re-entered. And Frankenstein's just right there waiting for me. I about flipped. It was the best. But there are some pretty clever bosses in the game. The second boss in the game, I actually thought was really clever. It's like you come in and you see this cutscene of a vampire feeding on someone he's just killed. There's this dead woman lying on the ground. This vampire's feeding on her. And he's like, oh, you disturb me? And he like starts fighting you. And when you finally kill him, the woman he was feeding off of gets up. She's a vampire. Too bad. You gotta fight her too. Like, the first guy's already dead, but now you gotta fight her. You're like, oh no. That was pretty clever. The death fight's pretty cool. One thing I will say really irritated me, though, is that this is one of those games that punishes you for playing on easy. When you get about halfway through the game, when you're in Dracula's castle, there's one part where you take an elevator up from the first floor to the second, and if you're on easy, it fades to black and says, like, play on normal to, like, beat the fucking game, which is a real kick in the dick. But if you do that, though, what I find really interesting is that there are multiple things going on in the game that can affect how you approach the ending. One of them is there's a vampire hunter who has been bitten. Like, there's like an old vampire hunter holding a cross, and he's like, oh, it's too late for me. Now, the thing with this game is that it has a day and night mechanic. And there are actually cards you can find where you can make it day or make it night, because certain doors only open during the day and some only open during the night, so you either wait or you time skip a little bit. But if you wait too long, like some number of days, then at the very end of the game, when you're walking up to Dracula, it's this really long set of stairs, and that leads into this really, like, weirdly empty room, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you follow another long set of stairs. Weirdly empty room again, there's literally nothing in it. Long set of stairs. Finally Dracula. And you're like, what the hell was the point of that other shit? Well, those two empty rooms were potential boss fights leading to the final boss fight. So the first one, if you waited too long, the old vampire hunter will be a vampire, and he will fight you there. And you're like, oh, now I gotta put up with this. And the other empty room is probably my favorite thing in the game, even though I've never actually triggered it because I don't want to die. But there's this game actually has a merchant, which is not a first. You know, Symphony of the Night had a merchant. But this guy...
And there were merchants in Castlevania too.
Oh, duh, of course there were.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the guy in 64 is... I think I mentioned this last week. He is very clearly a demon. He looks like a guy in a business suit with a suitcase. Yeah, he's like a dude in a business suit with a briefcase. But yeah, he's got, I think, red eyes.
Yeah.
But he has a prominent, like, Halloween costume, red pointed, like, devil tail.
Yeah,
and when you talk to him, I'm sorry?
Hanging over his arm while he talks to you.
Yeah, and when you talk to him, he's like, yeah, I'm a demon, but, like, I don't care. Like, I'll make money. Give me money and I'll give you stuff. So you could buy... and by the way, on easy mode, his stuff is, like, dirt cheap. It breaks the game. But on normal mode, his stuff actually costs money for real. And you could buy health items if you can't find them enough in your own grinding. I think he might sell you auxiliary weapons like holy water and stuff like that. I'm not 100% on that. Yeah. But he sells you some useful stuff. But if you go to the very end of the game, he mentions something that he just completely forgot. What an accident. He never told you this before. But if you spend, I forgot how much money, like 2,500 or 25,000 or something over the course of the entire game, then whoops, you've just signed away your soul. He gets to take it away to hell. And you're like, no, because fuck you. And he's like, yeah, I thought you might say that. And he goes full demon and fights you there. So if you took too long and you spent a lot of money, now you have 2 bosses before the final boss. And the final boss himself is in 3 phases.
He turns into a gigantic centipede.
No, he does not. He turns into, like, Lucifer Demon.
Oh, there's a centipede. Oh.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
So, like, the thing is, with Legacy of Darkness, you know how Dracula always, from the very beginning of the game, or excuse me, from the very first Castlevania game, is had a demon form.
Yes.
If you play Legacy of Darkness, he turns into a big black winged creature like Chernobog from A Night on Bald Mountain. It looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
But if you play original Castlevania 64, oh boy, because first of all, you fight like it's pretty clever actually. It's a nod to Castlevania 1. You fight Castlevania 1 Dracula, like he looks like OG Dracula. He's got the big red cape. He throws the 3 fireballs at you. You have to whip him on the head. And it's like, oh, it's a 3D version of that. But when you beat him, whoops, that wasn't even Dracula. That was his, like, the guy guarding his coffin, who coincidentally fights exactly like Castlevania 1 Dracula. What are the odds? So then then the play self-destruction, you have to run down the path and escape it. And it really fucking sucks if you die during that, but it's very easy. I've never died there. And you leap onto this platform that's not self-destructing. And then you fight real Dracula, who fights kind of like his bodyguard, only better and faster, and it's a more engaging fight. It's pretty cool. When you beat him, he goes monster form, and that shit is scary. So it's like, this is what you were saying. And by the way, this is, again, Castlevania 64 is the black sheep of the series, but this is easily my favorite monster form Dracula, which is actually legitimately hard, but he is by far my favorite monster form Dracula of any of the ones I've seen. Some are impressive, sure, but this guy takes the cake. So he's this giant centipede thing with a sort of humanoid front half. It's like a centaur, except instead of horse legs, it's centipede legs.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, and but he's not full human at the human part. He's got like a dragon's head. It's like, oh, fuck. And he's throwing energy balls that like make massive explosions. He's fighting in like a desert area, like the Twin Molds worm bosses in Majora's Mask, and you're like, oh god, it's so scary. But beating him beats the game for real. So you are guaranteed to fight 3 bosses, and depending how you played, you might be fighting 5 bosses. So if you took forever and spent a lot of money, man oh man, are you going to have a bad time at the end of the game, even though those bosses are cool.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Final Form Dracula is nuts.
You may even want to trigger the demon, the merchant boss, just because it's a cool experience. And
it's a very cool boss, but the final boss of the game is rough. It's an attrition fight, because this game has save points. So if you die, you have to do it all over, like the big staircase climb. It's just like in Castlevania 1. When you die, you have to climb up the stairs, except that's one screen. This, you have to run all the way up and maybe fight 2 bosses before you fight the boss. It sucks.
Yeah, so I should say that at the time, Castlevania 64 was seen as a big, major disappointment.
It still kind of is, honestly.
Well, it doesn't play as well as something like Mario 64 and Zelda.
Oh, yeah.
Like
it's very
Ocarina
slow
of Time.
and you feel heavy when you jump.
Yeah, but it is a good effort, and it does have some merit, and it is a unique entry in the series.
It is, and the music ain't bad either.
But there's also another disappointing aspect, and that is also that they still did not return with the Metroidvania, established. It was like a one-off. Like the Symphony of the Night style of gameplay was not there. It was not. This game is not an exploration-based game.
Yeah, this was pretty linear. The areas are 3D, so you can run around them a little bit. But it's this is not Dark Souls. You're just running forward.
They're very level-based, like the original Castlevania games, and in that respect, there is a familiar emulation of the old structure.
Yeah, so like I get it, but like,
well, the characters are very nobody's favorite.
Especially Reinhardt. At least Carrie is somebody unique, but Reinhardt is Simon, except he's not called Simon. What was the point?
Yeah, Reinhardt Schneider, who never returns or is ever heard of ever again, except
speaking of never heard from again. Legacy of Darkness. He's in that.
The second one.
What the fuck?
Legacy of Darkness.
What I was gonna say is what would be like genuinely cool is if they like brought this game back. Like, I mean, the Wii U would have been the chance to do that, but I would like to see this game come back.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to because of the amount of criticism. But it is kind of a game that people go back to because
it's interesting. Like, this is the kind of thing I wouldn't mind streaming.
It's one of those unique Konami games that ended up on the N64. There aren't. There are a few. So there's Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, Hybrid Heaven, and the N64 version of Nightmare Creatures is also pretty good. This era of Konami is weird and experimental, especially on the N64's end. So like there is something interesting about them. They are not perfect, great, fantastic games that you must go back to, but in the academic sense, they're very interesting, and it does do some things well. The atmosphere in this title is very good, and the music is very good.
Even the boss music has a somber tone to it. It's not like video game boss music, but like it works.
But the lock-on is not very good.
The lock-on is brutal. Yeah, it is.
The camera's not very good.
The platforming is pretty scary at all times, even the easy stuff.
That's true. You are likely to jump into a pit, no problem.
Yeah, this is one of those games where like you hope to God that the ledge grab mechanic works when you jump anywhere.
Yeah. But for all of its faults, it is very interesting. Now, I played the quote-unquote prequel / director's cut Legacy of Darkness a lot more than this original release, and this starred a werewolf character like Lotus was saying. It was actually pretty interesting because you could play him in human form to like various levels of changing into a vampire, which is or a werewolf, which is kind of neat. Also, it's kind of neat to see the Lycans versus the vampires kind of war going on in Castlevania, which you don't really see. Yeah, because that
was never really a thing, was it?
Yeah, it's not really a thing anywhere else. But this is cool because it is the better overall game because the mechanics of this main character, the werewolf character, are a lot better than Reinhardt's controls.
Okay.
He does these swipes, but they kind of have like a wave to them, so it's easy to hit enemies. It's kind of a projectile, so it's
That's true, because Reinhardt was very vertical with his attacks.
Yeah, the lock-on has been majorly overhauled. The attacks are a lot wider, so you can easily hit enemies better. They've rearranged the levels and added some. They've taken a few away, and it overall is a better game. So I recommend if you're going to go back to one of them, go back to Legacy of Darkness because it is a much more refined version of a very similar game.
Yeah, go play Legacy of Darkness, but then YouTube Castlevania 64's final boss.
Exactly. And I actually really like Legacy of Darkness. Like, I genuinely like it. It's not one of the best games in the series by any means, but it is fun and interesting.
Well, that's how I feel about 64. Yeah. Like, I like it all right, but yeah, it's obviously not the best game.
Now, as we said before, you unlock Henry after beating the game as Cornell, who's the main character. He's the werewolf. And
yeah,
Henry
in 64 you unlock like a costume or something.
Yeah, Henry is a young boy that you rescue from the hedge maze, I think.
Oh, that's interesting.
And so he comes back as an adult to go through his version of the game later. And then once you beat Henry, you open up Reinhardt and Carrie's like remixed versions of their.
Oh, that's interesting. So Reinhardt is like an unlock behind an unlock instead of just the default character.
Correct. So you unlock Reinhardt and Carrie, but they're kind of stripped down versions of their versions of the game. There are no cutscenes. Some cutscenes have been
because it's not really their game.
Yeah, their voice acting has been cut, and some of their original level designs were cut down.
Alright, so for the true Reinhardt experience, play Castlevania 64.
Yeah, I mean, their versions are like remix and cut down.
Well, let me ask you, because like a central figure in Castlevania 64 was the little boy Malice. He's like in the opening screen playing the violin when you turn the game on. Is he a thing?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Because if not, then these are just completely different games.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool. I genuinely like this one. This one was also kind of harder to find.
Yeah, even at the time, it was harder to find.
Yeah, it was promoted heavily by Blockbuster, but was not a Blockbuster exclusive. But it was almost a Blockbuster exclusive, that kind of thing. So like it was kind of hard to find, and it is. This is the game that should have been released, honestly. It's a much better experience. That's a similar kind of thing. So, it also has it's one of the few games that takes advantage of the expansion pack on the N64.
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, but
oh wait, the expansion pack. Oh, in the console itself.
Yeah, exactly. So the expansion pack, though, it allows higher textures, but at a higher resolution. However, it also kills the frame rate of the game, so don't use it.
Yeah, I had heard. I forgot what game or games they were, but there were some that work better without the expansion pack, and you have to remember, like, I'd seen a video about this, where somebody was like, "Oh shit, where's my original pack for the N64?" And I think mine might be the same place his was, which was inside my copy of DK64.
Sure, where you left
that's the game that came with the expansion pack.
So luckily you could pick the mode. If you have the expansion pack, it asks you whether you want to do expansion pack mode or regular mode.
Oh, that's cool.
So
cool.
you are not tied to it depending on
because usually
what
you don't get that option.
System.
It just says expansion pack detected or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, basically the expansion pack was only good for the games that required it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it was great for Majora's Mask, for Perfect Dark. It made Donkey Kong 64 literally playable. Yeah.
It broke Silicon Valley or whatever that game is. Space Station Silicon Valley, the game by DMA Designs before they moved on to Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, it recently fan hackers have made it work with the expansion.
Very nice.
But yeah.
Well, that game needed to be hacked anyway because there was one collectible that you could use a code for, but if you didn't, then it would appear on screen, but you would walk through it, like the game wouldn't detect you picking it up.
Yeah. No, that game had some flaws for sure. But I mean, so this was a weird era. I mean, you had 3 titles that. After Symphony of the Night, that did not carry on its structure or legacy, so it's and also kind of critical disappointments after such a big critical success. So I mean, in retrospect, these games are fun to look at, but like, would you want to pay full price for a game that was slightly disappointing? Maybe even majorly disappointing for the time. It's just one of those things. So you really would not get another game in the vein of Symphony of the Night until the Game Boy Advance release, which I'm going to tease. the Circle of the Moon for GBA. You know, I'm not going to move on to that because the GBA games deserve their own limelight. But this is just a weird era of Castlevania where people were starting to wonder whether the series would ever return to its glory that it just had. So, and this you wouldn't see Circle of the Moon until 2001, so it was a straight 4 years of disappointment. And it's a shame because, like, you know, these games aren't worthless, but they also weren't what people were looking for at the time. So we'll move on to fan stuff from there, Lotus, unless you have anything else to say.
No, I'm good.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, for the comments, School Filmer has a couple. I returned from my trip. As for a celebrity I've met, a friend of mine arranged a backstage visit after the stage show was done, and we got to meet the star of the YouTube channel Klippa? It says in parentheses, it's a Norwegian thing. We even got to take a picture, and of course, with him being in character, he did the bunny ears behind me, which was pretty amusing. And also, now that I'm back, I may as well share my thoughts about Trondheim. It was a nice city, food was good, got souvenirs and clothes, as well as a red notebook to journal my trip with words, as well as drawings related to points of interest during the trip. Definitely want to come back to this city someday.
That's cool to do a journal, you know, record your thoughts on everything on a vacation while you do it. That's a good idea.
Yeah. And as for what I'm playing recently, I got the Switch version of Thief Simulator for, I think, 90% off. And if you'll excuse my wordplay, it was a steal! I also got Art of Balance on the Switch, a nice balancing game. I already played it through on the 3DS.
Yeah, Art of Balance is a good game. Yeah.
So it's cool with the touch controls and a stylus.
Yeah, that was originally a Wii game, I think.
Oh, nice. That makes sense. Wii balance board.
No, it was just with the Wii Mote.
Oh, with the Mote itself?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then Living Corpse has a few comments. Seriously considering getting the PlayStation Digital HDMI mod.
Yeah.
And speaking of delisted games, I still got Pacific Rim, the game.
Huh. I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, there you go, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to get a video up on August 10th since that's K-Day in Universe, but was too late. So happy belated K-Day!
I love the original. I never got a chance to see the sequel.
Yeah, I heard the second was bad, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So he says, watch, it's when Ono leaves that Capcom decides to bring Darkstalkers back. And then he says,
I doubt it.
Yeah, I know. It's funny you mentioned both Dan and Hercule, because there was a death battle, like the YouTube show, of those two fighting. Easily the funniest thing in the episode is when Dan threatens to use a Hadouken, and Hercule is freaking out, but then it's just like a slow-moving fireball that puffs out, because that's, you know, what Dan's move is.
I mean, but that's still impressive from a human. Come on.
I know. And then he says, answering my own question regarding strange anatomy in media, I can't believe I forgot the horror from Eternal Darkness.
Oh, yeah.
The big guys. Depending on the ancient you choose to fight, you get a muscle-bound brute with no organs, a translucent giant with no eyes, but you could feel it seeing you, or a green freak with 3 giant eyes, with eyelids covered in teeth where the head should be. There's a fish I can't remember the name of from Metroid Prime, where its upper and lower body are separated from each other, but a ball of energy in the middle keeps them together. Nice.
Yeah, cool.
The version of Godzilla I mentioned that has 2 brains at some point mutates a second row of teeth. Double the crunch, double the pain.
Oh, yeah.
And then one more. There's also that scene in Alien vs. Predator where the xenomorphs die for like their own queen in several places so that her blood... kill their own queen, I guess, so that her blood melts her chains and she's free. Oh, no, yeah, they die for their queen. Yeah. I forgot about that. And all this talk about anatomy and science reminds me... There's a ton of books in Japan that go into the anatomy of Godzilla monsters and weapons, but they've never been officially released outside of Japan, because Toho is the no fun allowed guys.
They really
Once in a while, yeah. Once in a while we get lucky and a fan who is fluent in multiple languages will scan the image and upload them with translations. At least Karakawa is cool with companies like Arrow releasing officially sanctioned kaiju anatomy stuff for their Gamera box set.
Yeah, Gamera oddly has like a lot of really good official North American release stuff, and the more recent Gamera trilogy is excellent.
Yes. And then Lazarus says, this show must have been recorded several days ago, because it did not mention Fear Protocol, Codename Omega, the incredible Resident Evil spin-off, ? Maybe fan game? That I heard came out on the 9th. I haven't been able to check it out myself just yet, because I've been in prison. But rumor has it that it's what some would call a whopper of a doozy. Lazarus is a mad genius. I can't wait to upload your game, man. It's coming.
Fear Protocol. Let me check this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I heard about this. Yeah, Fear Protocol.
Sorry you were in prison, Lazarus. I hope things are better now that you're out. Dracologist says Shadow Man 2 is not that good. Jade Cocoon was odd. You start out with your pet mini dragon, and at the end game you have a kill me. Like, interesting. Legend of Legaia was great with its awesome monsters and summons. And one more from Dracologist. Tarja, the Nightwish singer, was an opera singer who decided one day to do metal. We met in a small backstage moment before a small concert thrown for Opera Day. Sci-fi biology. Anything from the game Ascendancy, which I don't know, and Subnautica, which I kind of do. In Ascendancy, you basically pick an alien race to conquer a galactic quadrant in a 4X-style game. As for Subnautica, you have a whole bunch of weirdly shaped fishes and naval beasties, like giant cephalopod crustaceans with EMP powers, or magma ball-spitting sea lizards. And as for Underworld, the third vampire, elder vampire, is Chet. We don't talk about Chet. I'm gonna go. I don't know Underworld lore enough to know what the C stands for, but I'm gonna go ahead and call bullshit on Chet for being 500 years old.
Just real quick, Fear Protocol Codename Omega is an itch.io game that you can run in browser.
Ooh.
You can also download it, but you can also run it in browser.
Nice.
I just want to read this to you. Strange biomonster creatures are appearing all over the city, and the ominous Devil Corp is suspected of being the source of the chaos. Meet Agent Jack Banger.
Oh, come on.
And the Night Striker Squad set in to investigate and to stop the abominations from taking over the city before it's too late.
Is this game a parody?
The art almost cinches it. Just take a look at this. Just give me your impressions once I send it over.
Right.
Here, give me a quick second so
I await good things. If it's a recommend from Lazrule, then I know it's good.
Yeah, check this out.
Okay. Even from the preview image before properly clicking on it, it looks kind of
derpy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The top comment was, "I was almost a Jack sandwich."
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the oh my god! It's the Garth Marenghi's Dark Place of Game Maker games. That's fucking incredible.
I can't wait to play this. I'm
fucking stupid.
This. Thank you, Lazrule.
Lazrule, you are a hero. You are a god among men.
You are a mensch. I'm adding this to my itch.io.
Lazrule knows all the tips, and all the tricks.
You're please tell me more about this kind of stuff. I love this. But
that doesn't mean I'm going to play Bioforge anytime soon, though, buddy. And then finally, our question is from School Filmer. Do you play, or have you tried playing, any instruments? As for me, I have a Casio CTK 7200 keyboard and a Yamaha Sonogenic keytar. Oh, shit. I do wish how to play them, or I do wish to know how to play them properly, though. I do know how to play the lead track of one of the tracks from Mr. Smoozles Goes Nutso. I swear to God, it's like a meme. As well as a part of Gymnopedie #1. Maybe one day I could upgrade my keytar to the Roland Axe Edge. That thing looks like a beast. Like, School Filmer, are you Mr. Smoozles? With how much you bring it up, I'm starting to wonder. Are you the one who has gone nutso? Or is at risk of going nutso? Let me know so I can prepare. As for instruments, though, yeah, I took piano lessons from the 3rd through the 12th grade. I've fallen off, though. I'm way out of practice, like, embarrassingly so. But I was quite good at the time through high school. I've been playing piano for quite some time.
Every time I've heard you play, I've always been envious. Yeah.
Oh, here's a fun fact, by the way. I have like an 1860-something. It was like 1861 or 1863 Steinway upright piano.
It's a beautiful piano. It really is.
Like my parents got it for nothing. It was like if you get it the hell out of my house, then you could just have it because it's a giant fuck off piano. So
very large arcade machines and pianos are just like that, even if they're rare.
Yeah, like I could charge you, but like let's face it, I just want the thing gone.
It's like CRTs are like that too at this point.
Yeah, and it was this really like off-putting salmon pink color. It must have like gone with a room or something, but my dad went over it in black, and it's a lot better now.
Yeah,
but this is an old school piano. Like it's got like wooden keys tipped with ivory. So like I think technically you're not allowed to like buy and sell it or pay people to move it for you.
No, I think like existing ivory is okay, but you're not like allowed to
even
make
then. I'm not
stuff.
100% on that.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% on that. But it's also old enough that it only has 2 pedals. It doesn't have the third middle pedal.
Wow.
It's kind of cool that it's got like glass on the front of it, so you can see the hammers on the inside. Because with the grand piano, you just open the lid. You know, that's the whole point. But with uprights, you might not see that. So it's got this glass paneling that you can see. I should upload a picture or something at some point. It is a gorgeous piano.
I really like looking at the inner workings of it. It's a really cool piano.
Yeah, there's something fascinating about it.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
It's one of those instruments. Like, who designed this? It's this insane contraption.
It's very complex.
It just looks so cool when you see it working.
So for as far as I go, I actually played the violin for a long time. I played it from 3rd grade until 12th grade, and that is where
there you go, same thing.
That is where I stopped.
Yeah, because we went to college, and you can't get lessons at home anymore.
Well, not only that, but you lose. You don't have the structure. Like I had the structure of playing with an orchestra. So
oh, that's true, because pianos can be done solo very easily.
Yeah, I mean, violins are a very good solo instrument as well. But here's the thing: the very last time I played my violin was graduation day.
Okay.
I had no real love for playing the violin, and to be honest, it was probably a mistake to play it. I wasn't good at it, and I didn't love it. It was mostly a value add. It was something to add to my
for your college resume. Like I've played violin too.
Applications, and also it was a social thing. I really liked my friends in orchestra. In fact, I'm still friends with a lot of my friends in orchestra, even to this day, as a 34-year-old. So. In that respect, it was good, and the trips were good. All the ancillary things about it were good, but I had no actual love for playing the piano, and I wasn't good at it. And I also
what piano?
I mean the violin.
I was like, wait a second.
And because I didn't have a passion for it, I did not get good at it. It was never something I just wanted to do for the hell of it, which is what a lot of musicians just like playing because for the joy of it, and I did not. So I didn't like the performance aspect of it. I was very nervous. I didn't perform well. I just didn't practice enough for that. It just was one of those things. And I haven't played since then. And really, honestly, I wish I had gone into like one of the robotics courses or a programming course, because that fits my personality a lot better. And it's something I wish I would have learned. I also, if I was going to go back and learn an instrument, it would either be the guitar or the piano, because they're both more practical. Violin, while a beautiful instrument, is also one of the hardest instruments to learn. It is a very difficult instrument to play, and to play well. And it is, quite possibly one of the most expressive. But it's like the holophoner, it's in Futurama, for a Futurama reference,
oh god, that
the violin is a difficult instrument to play because of the nuance of it, and it just is. And if I'd rather learn how to play the guitar, because that's something that people will enjoy. Like if they come over to your house, like nobody wants to hear anybody play the piano, the violin, unless they're super super good at it. But like like if you're at a campfire or something, a bonfire or something, and somebody whips out a guitar, even noodling around is fun.
Yeah.
And
when you're at a bonfire and somebody whips out a piano.
Yeah.
Oh, but,
nice. and also people like guitarists. They just do. They love people who can play guitar. And piano, I actually think I would just be better at. I mean, it's basically the forerunner for like, keyboards and such. Like it's button pressing. I can do that. And I think I would have been good at it had I been taught it. But it's just one of those things I never learned. So I can't. I don't even know if I could read music anymore. I honestly, like, I could tell you where a D is. A D note is at the bottom of the
I was gonna
staff.
say, like, I could still read music, but my God, I am not what I used to be.
I don't. Yeah, my competency at reading, the different ways that the notes interact. I can read the notes, but I can't read all the different symbols and stuff. I just don't know what they mean anymore. It's just one of those things. So, yeah, that's my stance on it, for sure. But I love music. Obviously we talk about music on this show quite a bit for the stuff we love. I love electronic music. If I had the time, I think I would even just noodle around on electronic music programs and just.
I was gonna say I would love to learn the electronic.
No, but
yeah, of
noodle
course.
around in GarageBand or something like that. You know what I mean?
Become perturbator. That'd be the fucking end goal, man. Can you imagine?
Oh boy.
What a freaking hero that guy is.
What's he from again? I forget.
Well, he's not from anything. He releases electronic music, but some of his tracks have made it into Hotline Miami 2. That's where I first heard of him.
That's where I know him
And then
from.
I looked up some of his other stuff, and I was like, yo, like, look up the song Sexualizer.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my God.
I know that one. Yep,
Yeah.
Yep. And I have the vinyl.
That's the one I gave you the vinyl of.
Yeah. No, it's excellent. So yeah, that's my stance on it. I mean, I'm very envious of people who can sing. I am a terrible singer. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
Lotus. Yeah.
I mean, like, I can do the right notes, but, like, I am not a singer. You don't want to hear me sing.
Nobody wants to even hear me singing Happy Birthday. You don't want me in the room when it happens.
Happy birthday.
That's the song everybody sings.
Damn it.
And I
mean, to your credit, nobody wants to hear anyone sing Happy Birthday.
It's a lame song.
Fucking don't do it. Yeah.
I mean, I like...
Everybody gathers around you and sings it. Like, could you fuck off and let me just blow out the candle or whatever I'm doing?
I mean, when I was working at Applebee's, we had our off-brand song before that was settled in court.
Every place had its own, like, we legally can't do this, even though we could, but we didn't know it.
I love doing that just because I could be loud and have fun for no good reason.
Actually, you know what's really funny? Did you ever watch Candid Camera?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, well, anyway, for those who haven't, the idea was this was an amusing show because it was not heavily scripted. I mean, premises would be set up, but reactions would be real. It was, like, better than reality shows because it was actually fucking real. So there'd be, like, a gorilla camera hidden somewhere, and something weird would happen, and a person who's not in on it would be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I seen the reactions, it's kind of funny. But it worked because it's not. It was harmless pranks. It wasn't like today's YouTube, like, fuck with somebody. Oh, it's just a prank, bro. These are actually, like, meaningless little things.
Yeah, cute.
And
it
one
was
of the
more
ones
cute
that,
things than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that really made me laugh was there was some restaurant that had its own Happy Birthday knockoff song, and this was an idea pitched by a viewer. They're like, I hate those fucking restaurant birthday songs. So wouldn't it be funny if you somehow made sure that it was nobody's birthday and you came out and did the birthday song to some random table, and they're like, yeah, thanks, buddy, but it's
funny.
not my birthday. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was, okay, my bad. And then they do the song again and take it to a different table. Are you the one whose birthday it is? No, man, sorry, it's not me. Oh,
concept.
sorry, okay. And they do it again. It's like infuriating.
So
they're just doing it over and over to some different table.
I even remember our birthday song. Happy birthday from Applebee's to you. We wish it was our birthday so we could party too. Hey!
Well, you know what? I'll take that over the real Happy Birthday song because it sounds quicker.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was...
And it's also better than line 1. Line 2 is the same fucking thing as line 1. Line 3, your name. line 4 is still the same fucking thing as line 1. There's no thought. I mean, to be fair, it was for like, what was it originally for? Like a kindergarten class or something?
Yeah, it was
originally... But that became the iconic song. It's like, dude, come on. Yeah.
And then they found out later that was also like a melody that was stolen at the time.
Was it?
Yeah, that's why it's not. It's in the public domain.
Yeah, so, I knew that it was in public domain, like after all, but I didn't know that was why.
Yeah, so like, imagine that stupid family that's been scamming like people off of like the legal use of a dumb song that everybody just knows and also can be a plot point in a movie or TV show or whatever. Yep. And you know, they either need to work around it or give them money. And then all of a sudden, nope, none of that was actually legit.
Yeah, we're cutting you off.
Yep, seriously, they shouldn't have been making money, 100 years after the fact anyway. Fuck off. Like, let things fall into the public domain. It belongs to your culture after a certain point. But anyway, that just about does it for the episode. Unless you have anything to add there, Lotus.
No, I think we're good. Well, I just got to learn to re-practice the piano forte.
Well, I kind of want to get to the point where I play as many harmonicas as the guy from Blues Traveler. Like, that would be pretty sick. Have you ever seen?
I think you need to be the harmonica guy from Shadows of the Damned.
Oh,
that absolute terror.
It's like jammed in his throat, isn't it?
Yeah, like that was like one of the only
terrifying,
genuinely scary parts of that game. Yeah, because like he's breathing heavily, but it's in his windpipe, so you just hear like as he's like behind you. You're like, oh fuck! Terrifying. Like it's really intimidating.
That's my favorite part of the game. Actually, is that the first boss battle
on point. Yeah,
yeah.
The first phase of the first boss. The second phase was okay.
Yeah. And then you find out that the main character is functionally illiterate.
No, my favorite part is the pre-interview or the pre-release interview. Like, anything you could tell us, Sid 51, about this game? Like, well, not really. All I'll say is that the main character, Garcia Hotspur, has a really cool watch. And then the game comes out and he does not have a watch.
And his actual name is Garcia fucking Hotspur. It's not...
Well, it's not officially confirmed, but it's heavily implied. Like, his middle initial... He always calls himself that, and his middle initial is F for sure.
Yeah.
So, like, it's probably fucking for real.
It's so good. Yeah. That's a game that isn't perfect, but I still love it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions and comments. Seriously, guys, you've been great. Please even tell us more about your personal lives. I mean, School Filmer was great by sharing some details there. That was great.
Yeah, you all play any musical instruments or have tried or whatever? Let us know.
Yeah. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. And we love the interaction, so keep it up. While there, please give us thumbs ups, like some 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. Also, give us a share or like on social media. We work really hard on these things, and we have our share of retweets and such. But if you could spread the word any way you can, even talk about us on Reddit or something like that. We would love any kind of plug you can get. You could give, because we have a dedicated fan base that listens to us every single week, and you're always there. So I'm sure somebody else would like to join you. We just don't have the exposure. And this is a well-oiled show. I mean, like, we do this every single week. We release it every single Tuesday and Thursday. Haven't missed a week, and we want to keep doing it, and we want to spread our show to everybody who can take advantage of it. We want more people to show up here. So you can also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Certainly have more news on Tuesday for you. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, whatever. All kinds of things.
Well, I'm bored now.
Some piece of crap.
Stomp or clomp or some piece of crap. My dad lost it at that line.
So good.
Anyway, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, like The Swapper, which is just finished, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon accounts, which can be found at patreon.com/lotusprince.
Well, guys, thank you very much for everything, and we will catch you on Tuesday.
Until next time, everyone.
All right, catch you then.